Hello and welcome to Minnesota Liberty Podcast, sponsored by the Libertarian Party of Minnesota. I am one of your hosts, Rebecca. We have Joey with me on my left, maybe your left too, and Charlie on whatever the other side is. I actually don't know if this is like a mirror image or what I'm seeing is what other people are also seeing. So I do know my left and right. You just. Anyways, tonight we wanted to talk about what's happening in Minnesota, because there is a lot happening in Minnesota right now, from ICE agents to murdering citizens on the streets to people disappearing, just straight up disappearing, to the conditions of the Whipple building that they're holding detainees, some who are legit American citizens who never should have been detained in the first place, from, I don't know, like the organic organization of neighbors to prevent these things from happening, to support their neighbors that are people of color, minorities, immigrants, so there's a lot of activity going on right now. And the news, this might be as a shock, is not actually super accurate with what's going on. There's a lot of bad information. So that's what we're going to talk about this evening, because this could be more defining to us as a people than COVID lockdowns was. And I mean, we're in Minnesota. COVID lockdowns were pretty draconian.
It feels like there's always a new line to cross, right?
Right. Well, Charlie, here we are.
I'm echoing now. Holy smokes.
And our IT guy is having IT issues. Oh, that's fine. We just need to get you a new computer, maybe, or something.
Agreed.
Maybe it's your house. We just need to get you a new house.
Oh, that'll be good. I'm down for that.
I'll take one too.
Yeah, me too. Houses for everybody. Yes. Yeah, but that is one thing we're not talking about this evening is housing. So everything else, though. So yeah, like, where do we start this conversation? Because this is just, there's so much going on right now. Well, let's just start at the beginning. What day was it that Renee Good was shot and killed?
I think it was the 6th or the 7th, January 6th or 7th.
Yeah.
So literally less than a month ago.
Yeah, still less than a month ago.
And as it says in our description, gosh, January was such a long year, wasn't it?
Can this year be over yet? I thought when we were saying, can 2025 be over yet? Like, we were going to have a smooth sailing into 2026, and that just, we got hit head on with a new storm of everything.
Yeah. 2025 for us personally was a rough year. And I remember specifically being like, okay, 2026 is going to be our year, because what else could possibly go wrong? I mean, I remember thinking that, right? Didn't have Civil War in my bingo card. So.
Yeah. It's been a rough start. We're February, 4th today?
February.
And, it's been a rough start. So hopefully, I mean, there's so many things coming up. There's contention in the midterm races this year. We're going to have a governor campaign, a new governor in the state of Minnesota. We just had caucuses last night, and looking at some of at least the GOP returns, it looks like Lisa Damuth is probably leading the polls in the straw polls, with Kendall Qualls close behind, and then Mike Lindell. Like, could you imagine Mike Lindell running against Amy Klobuchar for Minnesota governor race?
Honestly, I'm a little disappointed about that. I was really looking forward to running against Amy Klobuchar again. I have no interest in running for governor.
I mean, you could still run against Peggy Flanagan.
Yeah, I could. Who knows what will happen in between now and then? with as fast as things are changing and like the environment just seems to fluctuate and evolve, everything like it's up in the air, you know?
So did you see any straw polls for this the GOP
No.
Senate race?
There wasn't any. They only
Okay.
did the governor race.
Governor race? Okay.
Which would have been
like,
also interesting because there's so many candidates for U.S. Senate right now.
I know.
It's
I was looking, I'm like, okay, you got Michelle Tafoya,
Mhm.
Adam Schwarzy, Royce White, Tom Weiler,
David
and
Hahn.
I think David Hahn. Yeah. Like,
yeah, that's the weird one.
The establishment couldn't decide who they wanted, so they were like, "We'll just put them all in there."
I mean, that's great until all but one of them drop out at the last second.
Yeah. So I don't know. And then, well, and see, here's the thing. Like everything that's going on in Minnesota right now this is one of those separating the wheat from the chaff moments. This is where you really learn who people always were, but they were able to hide that about themselves because they weren't confronted with a situation where they had to expose who they really were. So we're seeing that a lot in all of these
What shocks me is how many of those I've seen over the last 15 years. It's like the second half of my life so far has been nothing but moment after moment and this is the moment where people reveal who they truly are. And it's gotten to the point where I'm running out of people that I can listen to online because at one point or another, all of them have shown me that they're not trustworthy.
Yeah. And I mean, this is just the next iteration, right? We're slowly stepping closer and closer to authoritarianism, right? And it doesn't matter which side you're on. It's the way it's going right now. We're either, being held to overtaxation by an overspending state, or, well, both sides are doing that. So that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just creeping forward anyway.
Well, and then you had people like, let's just take Royce White, for instance.
Yeah.
He is really easy to pick on because he overshares, like he's like a ADHD kid that they just, like they overshare everything about themselves. And he had during the Venezuela, when Venezuela was not invaded, according to the right.
The overnight decapitation of the Venezuelan government by extradition.
Which wasn't actually a war and not an invasion, according to the right, because we didn't actually lose any troops. The 100 Venezuelans that died, no big deal. That's just the cost of whatever not engaging in war is. I mean, it's fine. But like he came out and said that this was a good thing that we invaded Venezuela. He said it on his Twitter account that this was a good thing that we invaded Venezuela because we needed their oil, and these are obviously America First policies, which is just so like Orwellian in nature that you would take something so basic and be like, this isn't what you see here.
Ignorance is strength. War is peace.
It must be nice to have such conviction in your perspective, right? Like, okay, he honestly believes that. That's his go-to.
Well, that's the thing is, I don't think he honestly does believe it. I think that he says whatever he believes is going to get him into the good graces of Trump, and so he's not going to speak out against Trump because he's a America First MAGA guy. And even when Trump is acting completely opposite of how he sold himself to be during his campaign, the people that are so enamored and idolize who Trump is are just going to go along with it because they have actually no real convictions. So we get to the police state in Minnesota with ICE. Renee Good is killed. And regardless of what you see or don't see in the video of her death, and I believe probably at this point everybody has seen it multiple times, and you're not going to change anybody's mind about what happened, right?
Yep.
What I noticed immediately after that was that there were people on the right people that were always more, blue line, or was it thin blue line people, pro law enforcement, the same idolization that causes somebody like Royce White to, break on his convictions, or his supposed ones, because it's a federal agent and people are like, oh, well, this is law enforcement. They automatically put the responsibility of not having been murdered on the person that was murdered.
On the victim.
Right? And so then 10 days later, it happens again.
The Alex Preddy shooting is absolutely atrocious, in my opinion. There's just no defense on that. To me, it's clear as day. The fact that we'll probably never get to the bottom of it or have anybody held accountable for that is crazy.
Well, they're federal
agents.
And
I understand that. Yeah, they're federal agents, but I understand why there's so many people that this is a dividing line. People that are on the conservative side that have always stood up for a smaller government or against authoritarianism, now like kowtowing to the invasion of Minnesota, and it's insane. So I don't know.
Sorry, somebody in the chat just popped up and said we sound liberal. I mean,
yeah, well, maybe you should go. Maybe you should go watch some more stuff.
And maybe you should try it. I'm just saying. I'm not. Oh no! Don't call me a liberal.
No, not liberal.
If that means standing for truth, I will wear that title proudly.
I mean, when it comes to standing for truth, I'll step up and I'll say I've seen the frame by frame and second by second breakdown of the Preddy shooting from multiple angles, and I've heard the legal analysis about how things are going to go in court. And I'm going to say, unfortunately, pretty much the same thing here as I said for the Renee Good situation, and that is, one could, if one had the intention of doing so, construct a legal argument and present it to a judge that the officer that fired feared for his life. Sure. There's this whole, was the gun that was taken, did it go off in the hands of the DHS agent who took it off of Preddy because it was a SIG? I don't think that whether it was a negligent discharge or a malfunction, like a physical defect in the firearm, I don't think that that's actually going to matter in a court of law. They're going to look at the officers who weren't the one holding the gun, who weren't the one holding the gun that had been taken off of Preddy.
Right.
And they're going to say, okay, so in the situation where you're tackling a guy and your elbows are all up in his spine, you hear someone shout gun, 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 and hear a gun go off, and you shoot the suspect because that's what policing looks like in America, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's not supposed to be, because here's the thing.
But unfortunately, our legal system defends that sort of thing.
Well, because the bias is towards law enforcement, right?
And this is a fundamental flaw in our legal system, is that it assumes that law enforcement actions are rationalizable and legitimate until demonstrated otherwise.
But so, as a former soldier that did engage in some of these kinds of situations, and just for anybody that's watching, doesn't know my background, I was an Army medic, deployed with 2nd Infantry Division during Ramadi from 04, Baghdad in 06. So these were all like key times of war. Somebody's like, oh, well, you don't know what that's like. Actually, I do. I do know what that's like. I also know what our rules of engagement were. And if you civilians that don't know what rules of engagement are, there's a series of steps that you're supposed to go through, and probably pretty quickly in a lot of situations, to
PC,
determine.
do you want us to invite you? You can join.
Yeah.
We'll happily let you in.
Yeah, jump. Just
get TC on as a guest.
Anyways, but there's the rules of engagement are steps that you have to go through to positively ID who it is that's shooting and if they're actually a threat. So because you're not allowed to just open fire because you feel threatened. That is completely against law enforcement. It's completely against soldiering. When you become, employed by one of these jobs, that's just part of the gig. That's the way it is.
Well, and I think what's going to come from this,
right.
I think what's going to come from this is a commitment to more training and a commitment to better policy
and better leadership.
Leadership.
The leadership should have known that they had weak and trigger happy agents. They would have been able to identify who those people were and not put them out in the field. That's a leadership failure.
Yeah, poor recruitment is also a leadership failure because they're offering large lump sums to people to bring them on, as if that isn't going to totally create the wrong incentives for people to join. So they're letting these cowards onto the streets with whatever training that they give them, but they are cowards. They're afraid of the people they're interacting with on the streets, and not just the ones who are potentially dangerous, but the ones who are just holding a camera.
Go ahead, Charlie. And then we keep.
I was going to say, essentially, they've been trying to recruit people into the Border Patrol and ICE for a decade, right? It's not anything new, but I'd be curious to find out what the background of the agents that were on the ground at that time is, and I know we're never going to get that.
Oh, well, if
to know the years of seniority of the oldest agent who was there that day, because it might be far younger than people expect, or it might actually be far older than people expect.
So if the accent and their names are any indication, I mean, the irony in this, because they did eventually release the names of the agents, and I don't have them in front of me, but they're both of like Latin descent in Minneapolis, enforcing immigration and shoot a white guy. I mean, like, just it's theater of absurdity.
Well, it's not. I don't think it's absurd. I think there are absolutely people of Latin descent that don't want to see immigrants in the United States.
Oh yeah, no, and this is the thing, is that all of this with ICE in Minneapolis, and to be clear, they're not just in Minneapolis. They're also in small town Minnesota. Right?
Oh, absolutely,
they're not staying just in the metro. But this has really brought out and I hate using this term because it's so overused. Just to like, oh, I don't like you, so I'm going to call you, a racist or a bigot. But the right, not just right, because there was an incident with, I don't know. Anyways, that's probably another topic. But that like they don't want. They say they don't want illegal immigrants, but when they start talking, it's not. They don't want the immigrants, because a lot of these people are going through the immigration process, which is not fast. It's a very long, drawn out, expensive process. And you have to be a green card holder. You have to prove your stability, that you can make money. Like you have to do a number of these things. But these are also the people that are being rounded up in Minneapolis are the ones who are going through the process legitimately. That is also happening.
And there are also U.S. citizens that are being detained, brought to the ICE facility at the Whipple building, and sometimes even to the one in Texas that now apparently has a measles outbreak.
Yeah, apparently there was. I don't know anything about it really, but that's. Again, it's just another one of those. Well, there's so much going on right now.
There is a lot going on. There's a lot going on. There's. I mean, we're still in this contention. I will say that, like, I'm the news came out, was it today or yesterday, that we're drawing down 700 agents
Came out today.
from Minnesota today.
Mhm.
So that's, I see that as positive. I don't know what the concessions are. I just basically briefly saw it. So if we could pull that up, I don't know what if there's any report on what the deal is. I think with Homan taking charge, he's a little more less abrasive, if I can put it that way. He's still a strong-willed person.
Well, he looks
Don't
like
get me
less
wrong.
of a SS officer.
Right. I think he's a little more even keeled. I think he's still on a mission.
Mhm.
But I think he understands that the metro surge in Minneapolis was a little overkill and probably not led in the right direction. So I think there is some conversation to be held there between at least Governor Walz and Mayor Fry about how they're going to interact going forward. And hopefully there is conversation and some back and forth to kind of reach some sort of agreement about working together. The reality is that there are people out there that are committing crimes, but we need to be able to apprehend those people in a safe manner.
Right.
Right. You can't go in and because, like, look, we believe in a non-aggression principle.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we believe that, hey, if you aggress against somebody else's civil rights, if you're committing a crime against somebody else, whether it's a burglary, somebody else's property, or murder or rape, absolutely, those cannot be, in a civil society, we cannot have that.
Right. But
Right.
we already have laws and methods for dealing with those things.
Right. And so when I look at it and I go, okay, there's got to be some compromise between the federal immigration process and our local police departments, and being able to share that information. And the fact that we've completely disregarded that from a leadership standpoint, both sides have created this mess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's who carries the big stick at this point, and who's gonna kind of, I hate to say Trump over anybody else, but that's the reality of it, right? Trump has become a verb.
Yeah. Here's the thing that a lot of people, I think, are getting wrong in this whole thing. Immigration was an excuse. This was an excuse to get into Minnesota, to get a reaction, because if Minneapolis is good for something, it is for a reaction, right?
I mean, you can, the smallest infringement will spark a fire.
Yeah, and this is like, literally, I've seen a lot of people that are like, oh, well, this is all paid protesters. These people, they're being professionally organized.
There are paid protesters who are professionally organized on both sides of every protest that has happened in the United States for decades.
Yeah,
they are a relatively small percentage, and their ability to incite people to acts of violence is based entirely on the situation on the ground in the moment, and not on who was paying them or how much.
Here's the thing that people don't understand about, especially liberal Minnesota, which there's a lot of them, is that they are all very, very committed to the way that they view life and their politics. So when you're talking about something going on down in the metro, and there are protests that are 30, 40,000 people. This is not like you're always, like you said, you're always going to have some sort of element of, that, right? But this is beyond what being just a paid professional organizer could have even possibly have mustered on their own. There are and I know this because I've talked to some of these people. Neighbors are simply going to the people in their neighborhood, creating signal chats so that they can communicate with each other very, very quickly. And so word of mouth through these signal chats is spreads like wildfire as soon as ICE agents get there. Now, not only are they using these signal chats or whatever their method is, it's not always just signal chats, but it's us other things too. They're not only using that as a way to maintain and to figure out where ICE is and who, if ICE is in their neighborhood or whatever, but they're also doing grocery shopping. They're going to people's houses and helping them get the trash out to the curb. They're dropping food and meals off because there are legit an entire contingent of people in the metro that are too afraid to leave their house and haven't stepped out their front door this entire time. They're not buying groceries for themselves. They're not paying their rent because they're not working. There
are absolutely people fundraising to pay rent for other people.
And these conversations, these are naturally and organically organized, not paid and professionally done. They saw a need, they rose up and they met it. And I don't think people really understand the energy that's behind that and how ICE is not going to be able to overcome pissed off liberal moms. Good luck.
And here's the thing. I support that type of behavior. As a libertarian, I would rather see the community stand up and support the members of their own community. Right. In whatever way they choose. Right. I don't get to dictate that. Right.
Oh no, we lost.
No one could have predicted this.
Yeah. Charlie, he probably realizes it pretty quickly. Hopefully he didn't go on talking for another 5 minutes or so. He'll be back.
Yeah, I also
there he is.
Hey, there he is. Hey, you do exist.
My internet, I don't know what I was saying is that's what I would love to see that within every community, standing up and sharing when people are down and out, right? Mm-hmm. I would like to see that on an everyday basis. I don't want to
regardless of the context of government being present or not present.
And I think that's the thing is
the less involvement government has in this sort of thing, even as an impetus for it happening, I'd say the better. I want community organizing, not from a political standpoint, but from a, hey, people need help, let's make sure they get it standpoint, because that's something that our society has kind of lost. And I'm a little frustrated that it took the federal government deciding to try to turn the Twin Cities into a police state for people to remember that communities are supposed to support one another.
That's exactly it. And I mean, we used to do, we used to do it through community organizations or churches or religious organizations. People used to be in those types of organizations on a weekly or daily basis and communicate with people face to face. And I kind of put it on technology a little bit, right? Because at some point you had your circle of influence that you were interacting with on a daily or regular basis, and people could check each other up front. But now we've gotten into this echo chamber where I don't have to listen to you. I seek out the people that support my perspective, right? And I only interface with them. And anybody who disagrees with my perspective is the enemy. And we've gotten to this point where it's like, oh, I know who the people I don't want to interact with on my street are. And that's the wrong way to look at things, right? We should be, hey, you're in close proximity to me. You're my next door neighbor. I need to be in contact with you in case something happens. We can lend a hand. We can go shovel somebody else's driveway, right? Just let them know, don't embarrass them, but say hey, do you need help shoveling or something happened? We need to get back to that level of community again, and not this abrasive, you don't agree with my politics, so I'm going to shun you or call you a bigot and then demean you so that you have no way to come back at me, right? I feel the moral high ground at this point. So I'm superior and you can go F off. And that's just, we've gotten to this point here in Minnesota, it's so divisive. And I know other places it is too, but we're here in Minnesota, and this is kind of like the powder keg at some point, where it's going to set off. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, and here's the thing is that this is exhausting. Like being in this constant state of heightened awareness is there's a great sense of fatigue, right? And I would say that that's across the board. Like it's not just it's not even just people in the metro. And I've gone down to the metro because I don't live there. I live in northern Minnesota, but gone down the metro a couple of times specifically because I wanted to see things for myself. I wanted to talk to people that were there for myself without relying on what the news was, saying one way or the other, because I don't think the news is reliable, right? So going down there and seeing things specifically for what they were, talking to people that are witnessing this firsthand, going to the Whipple building. I mean, Charlie, you and I went to the Whipple building. It was 2 degrees outside that day.
I think it was less than that. Was it less than that?
It was 2 degrees. That was the warmest day that week.
Yeah. I mean, that day that we went, the streets were still lined with people.
Oh yeah.
Even with as cold as it was, I legit saw men with like icicles hanging off their beards. They had been there for a hot minute. Anyways.
Not hot, but
yeah, not hot. It was a very long, cold. Anyways, and you had to find out later through another friend who, because he was participating with this, that there are people that are just sitting in their cars outside of the Whipple building waiting for people who have been detained to be released, because ICE is releasing these people with nothing. No coat, no cell phone, exactly how they were detained, which in some cases was literally just their underwear on, and then releasing them back outside in these extreme sub-zero temperatures with nothing and no way to get home. No call, no transportation. And so there's people out there organizing themselves to sit in cars and wait for these people to be released so that they don't freeze to death, because ICE just was like, oh, you're on your own now, and that is happening. And then the news came out, and I had actually seen this from a couple of testimonies before the news came out with this, is that they have people that are handcuffed in there with no bed, no privacy, no food and water, like basic necessities. They're not giving them enough food. They're not making sure that they have an adequate amount of water to drink a day. Men and women handcuffed together in the same cells with an open toilet and no beds to sleep in for days like this. So these testimonials of this, what the conditions are inside, have been coming out when these detainees are being released and are saying, well, this is what it was like inside. Even prisons they don't have those kinds of conditions, not to to this degree.
And it reminds you of, kind of 2000s, kind of pre 9/11, post 9/11, hey, we're dealing with terrorists at this point. Like I would, if those are the orders that came down from the federal government that said, hey, treat these people like terrorists, that's despicable.
Well, honestly, I don't put it past them.
That's what I was, I think that's what I was getting at. Like, if I could see how those are the orders that said, hey, we're going to treat these people with the least amount of care possible. And it's mind-blowing to hear that about a place in Minnesota rather than all these other places across the world that treat prisoners like less than.
Yeah. So, and the alligator Alcatraz. That was supposed to be shut down and it wasn't. It's still fully operational. And I watched a video yesterday of a lady who's probably in her 20s who was going to alligator Alcatraz. I don't know what its name actually is, because her dad was detained there. Her dad was a asylum seeker from Cuba. Her and her siblings were all born in the United States, but he was granted asylum from Cuba, and he was rounded up, and he's an older guy that has diabetes. He needs insulin twice a day, and he has not been out of chains and chained to a bed for the entire 30 days that he's been there. Like these aren't.
Well, and this dispels the notion that we're going after these hardened criminals that are committing crimes, because that's not what's happening.
Right.
They're going after anybody.
Yeah, but that's actually a criminal is just so minuscule compared to the people that they're rounding up, that it's not even to talk about them and to focus on, oh, well, they're getting the criminals, but 95 out of 100 people, the only crime that they have is simply not having been born in America, is despicable.
Well, and I mean, it's essentially Trump throwing a tantrum, right? Yes. He's like, oh, you didn't want to play nice with us. Well, I'll show you what we can do. We're going to cause havoc. And I mean, you start listening to some of the videos that of ICE agents talking to people and saying, haven't you learned yet? And it's like, who the hell are you?
Well, that they've been given,
their empire. That's who he is.
Their internal memos, I mean, are coming out where they're literally telling their agents that they don't need to follow due process. They don't need warrants to go into people's homes. They don't need any of the things that we like to be arrested. And they're like, oh, we're not arresting them. We're detaining them. I fail to see the difference if the outcome is the same. But this is, again,
if you put somebody in handcuffs and you take them away, you've arrested them.
Yeah, we're just going to call it something else. And it's the the Jedi mind trick or the Jedi word trick. We're just going to call this something else, and it's going to be fine, because this isn't torture. It's just physical, I don't know. What's another word for torture? I'm drawing a blank. Anyways, but I do want to make sure.
It's abuse.
Yes, physical abuse. I do want to make sure that we go into this connection, because at the end of the day, what's happening in Minnesota, it's an excuse. It's intentional. They're peaceful people that are paying the price for a political temper tantrum.
Yep.
Ann Bondi sent a letter to Governor Walz. And in that letter, there was a few conditions. And she was like, hey, if you guys meet these conditions, we'll pull ICE out of Minnesota. One of those things was for Minnesota to release its private voter data. Here's the thing. And then additionally, Pete Stauber from CD8, I think it was just yesterday or the day before, came out and said he's got a bill he's pushing in Congress called Voter Integrity Bill or something like that. The bill requires Minnesota to turn over private data for voter rolls. They're calling it the Integrity Act, right? Trying to, again, Orwellian, we're doing this so that there can be more integrity. Oh, the fact that we're getting your private information is that's coincidental, but that's not actually what we want. We want integrity. But the bill, or Secretary of State's office, the voting records of everybody in Minnesota is already public.
Right.
Anybody can get that info. It's already public. They don't.
Yeah, you
so
can
they're
get who voted. You can't get who they voted for,
right,
but you can get who voted, right?
and not their addresses.
Nope.
That's not available. So your voting record is public.
The year you voted.
Yeah. So what they're looking for is all that private data to be turned over to the federal government. And they're calling it integrity.
Yeah. Well, and like, so this is the rub. This is the rub. Is you look at the past elections, right? And there have absolutely been
fraud and corruption.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. There are inconsistencies with the election process.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I understand the need or the want to get in there and look at that data and start to do some analytics and try to figure out what the heck is going on.
Well, and there are groups that do. They take this very seriously. They've got
100%. 100%.
Yeah, and some of them are backing off now because they're acknowledging they're saying, look, if the federal government is using this as a pretext for a federal invasion of U.S. cities, then it's not something that they're going to put any volunteer effort into trying to get access to that data.
And so this is the problem that I get to is like if you're putting this on, if you're running this game because you're so impatient and you're saying, oh well, we need to capture that 2028 presidential election, and we need to figure out what's going on so we can make sure that this happens. Now you're doing the same thing. Right?
You're trading one tyrant for another.
Yeah, you're rigging the game, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's like, if you're not going to go about it in
an honest and a way of integrity,
and I fear that's what's happening with the. I fear that's what's going to happen with the GOP in general, right? All of their people that they're going to elect are going to be the radical, more MAGA leaning, right? That says, hey, Trump's our savior. He's gonna. We have his backing. We have the federal government at our back, and the blowback is gonna be absolutely destructive.
They're just as willing to engage in authoritarianism as
absolutely
Democrats on the left are. 100%. They are not different. And then the people like us that are normal citizens are going to be like, and especially when they have worked to make sure that there's nobody else on the ballot but themselves.
Right.
You're forced to pick between two poisons.
The comment on Twitch. I didn't know we were streaming on Twitch, but hey, cool.
This one? Then what's
the solution, right? How do you stop the fraud if Walls basically allows it?
You got to stop playing the game. Like if you
got to stop playing. So
there are more than two political parties.
Well, let me just say this. Look, if you are given two bad choices, the only power move that you have is refusing to participate. I'm not telling people not to go out and vote, but stop voting for the systems that allowed this to happen in the first place. Personally, I made a commitment that absolutely I will never vote major party again because I have seen at least enough of the inner circles at this point in time to know that my soul is more important to me than getting a seat in somebody else's disgusting game.
Right. And I feel like I have a solution, right? The whole reason I'm running for Minnesota State Auditor is to provide this solution of transparency at the municipal level. It starts at the lowest level of government. We need to start affecting who's running for our city councils. You'll see across the state of Minnesota, all of these city council meetings that are popping up on social media about citizens actually interacting and saying, hey, you guys signed this non-disclosure agreement for these data centers, right? It's all across Minnesota. It's everywhere. Things are coming up and people are challenging their city council members. basically what we're looking at is to expose all the financial transactions that are happening at the local levels so people can start affecting their local government again and getting civically engaged at that level. That will bubble up to the state level, to the federal level, right? I don't know that we'll get to the federal level because there's a lot of security issues. There's a lot of, how do I put it, foreign entanglement within our government. So
APAC.
that might be a little tough to sell to the 360 million people in the United States, but at some point, at least the local levels have to be completely transparent. That way people can see where their money's going, when taxes are being raised. You know, we have a forecasted outlay of the projected budget that actually includes all of the transactions from the previous budget. And we could start to look at those and see, okay, where are the funds coming from and how is this being attributed? So I think at some point it is a long game, right? It's not a silver bullet. It doesn't stop it overnight. And we didn't get here overnight, right? So the problem is we've got to start taking control of our local governments again and applying pressure to them. And so I think that bubbles up through to the state government, and we could start putting pressure there again. But the reality is it's a long process.
Hold on. There is a comment here, and I want to make sure that we hit the main point of what our header was for this before we leave, because I have a lot of information to just kind of throw out there here in a little bit to try and tie this whole picture together. But I want to, this comment here. The National Party allows a Libertarian Socialist caucus. Why is the state party opposed to such a state caucus to exist? I'm not actually.
If it's start the caucus,
doesn't authorize.
Start the caucus and join the party.
Absolutely. You want to get that done? info@lpmn.org. My name's Rebecca. Reach out. Let's make it happen.
Start the caucus and join the party and come to the convention.
I will say if the
why does that keep popping up?
Oh, I was trying to pull up the comment right above it. Why is the Libertarian Party against Libertarian Socialist if it is socialism based in voluntary association? Here's my thought process. Individual rights are individual. Groups don't have rights, individuals do. To the extent that any attempt to have a socialist commune or something is rooted in individual rights and the consent of each person, sure, okay, have at it, go for it. To the extent that it tries to subordinate the rights of the individual to the rights of a group, I think that is inherently un-liberty.
And honestly, I can't be like, oh no, don't do that, because I'm the chair of the state party and like my longtime dream is a commune. So which currently in the middle of trying to get up off the ground. So I'm as long as it's done voluntarily and you're not going to use the state as a weapon against peaceful people, by all means, have at it. But seriously, info@lpmn.org. But I do want to make sure, because I want to tie a picture together on what I believe, and I think that once you start seeing this for what it is, that let it sit in your mind to think on this for a little bit. We have ICE in Minnesota. ICE uses data collection, and now they just announced that they're using body cams on everybody. Those body cams and the ICE collection is being used and manipulated and stored through a company called Palantir. Palantir paid or donated, maybe the same thing. JD Vance's campaigns, $15 million. That doesn't include the $30 million that Palantir personally donated to the Trump ballroom. Okay, Palantir is a data collection. It's basically a police state tool to be able to catalog people and keep, so everybody's got a list. Or on a list. And if you're not on the list yet, what are you doing wrong? You should be on the list. But Palantir, Peter Thiel, like all of these names, go start digging into this. In the meantime, over the last few years, and this isn't just a Trump administration problem, this is also a statist problem, which the Democrats are just as statist as the Republicans are, and vice versa. But flock cameras have been put up around the country. And just the metro alone has almost 1,100 flock cameras.
If you don't documented flock cameras, because not all cameras are on deflock.me. It's a user-reported site.
So you know who's done a lot of work on this? Brian Paulson.
Yes, and I believe he's been on here and talked about it a little bit, or a lot. But flock cameras and Palantir work together to collect that data and use it. Flock cameras are AI driven. So what was that movie back in the 90s where they anticipated crime? You know, it was Tom Cruise. Minority Report. So if you're like, oh, this sounds familiar.
There's a data center doing it instead of a pair of creepy twins. That's the only difference.
Right. And in the meantime, all of these data centers that are being built across the state, I believe we have 17 in formation right now across the state. They're taking natural resources, they're buying up farmland. I mean, like, this is what's actually happening.
Yeah.
But we're, pay attention that, the ICE and the immigration, it's all a distraction. This is an excuse to build up the police state. And while it has happened under other administrations, right now it's happening at such a speed that it's kind of hard to keep up with, because they've gone like full in on getting this all done. And at the same time, all this conversations about Pam Bondi requiring the private data of Minnesotan voters so that ICE will leave Minnesota. They're also talking about the Trump administration nationalizing elections. So like they're going to they're trying to take over elections in all the states.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. There's a couple things that dropped last week with the open source of what do we call it now? It was ClaudeBot and then MoltBot, and now I think it's something else. OpenClaw. OpenClaw. I mean, people are, I've been in this space for 15 years now, and people are building agents that are doing so many things, granting, like an agent can spin up its own armed swarm of agents and basically grant access to any browser and start to it's amazing what people are doing,
but it is also
it's amazing what people are doing.
Amazing automation. It is incredibly powerful, but that doesn't mean people are using it wisely.
Well, and here's the thing:
is something good and abuse it for their own personal ambitions.
It's not that they're necessarily abusing it. It's that the security protocols that are supposed to be put in place are not necessarily stringent, right? There's just, when you grant access to some of these things that could just go haywire, it's scary. It's really scary, and we're going to see a lot more of it, and there's no stopping it. It's out there, and people are going to, like 6 months from now, the landscape is going to look drastically different, and it's going to affect the midterm elections.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever we think we know right now is going to shift.
We don't even know what we don't know. That's right. I feel like the next is it still, man, it is still February.
I know. It's just February.
We still have 9 months to go before the elections. And with as fast as things are changing, I feel like that the closer we get, you're kind of on this steady downward, but you're compensating. And the closer you get to the ground, the faster you start crashing. That's kind of how I feel like what we're in right now. Just an observation.
And the way I see this is the reason all these data centers are getting spun up is because we now have such a dramatic appetite for new technology. And you could look, what's the biggest market cap company in the world right now? It's NVIDIA.
Oh, right? That's actually, so when I was doing my research into Palantir, NVIDIA and Palantir they also work together.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Who do you think's buying all the graphics processing? That's what's going into these data centers, right? The
not just the chatbots, but all the AI powered cameras eat a lot of processing power.
The minute we found out that graphics processing is way faster than traditional CPU, right? The desire to build these data centers with NVIDIA cards is insane. And you start looking, this is global reach, right? Because who creates all these microprocessors, right? Mostly in Taiwan, these dramatic chips. And if China takes over Taiwan, they control the microchip world. There's so many weaves. I know Trump talks about his weaves. He follows the threads and the weaves, and but there's so many intertwining in the global economics of this, and you see the money going towards AI and AI research and processing and all of the tools that we're going to be able to build with this. But it comes down to people are going to start digging into your life. They will know everything about you, right? You're going to have all of these, like, you could build your own assistant, right? But the assistant is tied to everything else as well. So if the assistant starts learning how you interact, starts understanding what your proclivities are, or saying, oh, you favor these things, and we're going to start
nudging you in directions that aren't going to seem very overt to you, but are going to gradually change your pattern of behavior.
And it might seem like a subtle nudge at first, right? Like, oh, that's a good idea. Maybe I should take that on, or maybe my assistant could take it on, right? And it's going to expand really, really fast, and we're not going to be able to grasp it. And it's scary.
So I want to real quick address a comment. And I did see the comment about that you popped up real quick. You see it as a distraction and not a continuous authoritarian process. If I didn't see it as a continuous authoritarian process, I would not be doing what I am today.
Yeah, I only got involved with the Libertarian Party of Minnesota because I saw what was happening during COVID as the latest step in a long authoritarian process, and I wanted to start doing something about it.
Yeah, so let me pop this one up. Plenty of time for y'all to file as a libertarian candidates. Here's the deal, okay? So we do have candidates that are currently, in fact, we had a kind of a meeting of the minds. Was it last week?
I think it was the beginning of this week. No, it was the beginning of
it was last week.
It was last week? Okay.
Yeah. I can't tell what week it is anymore.
Yeah. So anyways, we are doing that, and we do have a number of people. We do have people that have stepped up. And honestly, this year, out of all the years, we have a lot of people that want to run as a libertarian on Minnesota ballot this year. Here's the kicker. The Republicans and the Democrats have worked to put laws in place to keep us off the ballot.
Not just libertarians, but all third parties.
Anyone who's not a major party candidate, and major party is defined as crossing a voter threshold that they just raised to keep other parties, non-DDR, off the ballot.
So what we have to do is not equal to what they have to do to get onto the ballot.
Their ballot access is automatic with a slight fee. They have like a filing fee that's just a few dollars in comparison to running a campaign.
What we have to do to be able to get on the ballot is every single candidate that we put on the ballot has to do a number of petitioning. Okay, so for instance, a statewide race, which is governor, auditor, secretary of state, attorney general, U.S. Senate, or president, has to get 2,000 minimum certified signatures. So that includes the name of the person, the address, the county they live in, their date of birth, and a signature for every single petition.
Wet ink. It can't be signed digitally. It has to be
done
paper.
in person.
Yep. And I'm saying a minimum of 2,000 certified signatures, because the Secretary of State's office goes through there line by line, and they're like, oh, we can't actually read that one, and we can't confirm that this address is accurate. And so they go through and they disqualify signatures. So in reality, we need closer to 2,500, 2,600 to give us a little bit of a safety net per candidate. Okay, so
all
you
can the same period of time.
Yep. If you are running governor, secretary of state, auditor, and attorney general, we're looking at 10,000 signatures. Oh, Charlie, no, you should be part of this. Come back. Anyways, however, here's like the bigger issue. We only have 2 weeks to collect all of those signatures.
It is the same 2 weeks for all of the races at the same time. 2,000 signatures is not an impossible target to hit. 2,000 per race for all of the races at once is pretty dang tough.
2,000 for governor, 2,000 for secretary of state, 2,000 for auditor, 2,000 for U.S. Senate. And then if we have somebody that wants to run against, for instance, Finstead down in CD1, that's another 1,000 signatures. If we have somebody that wants to run, for instance, Pete Stauber in CD8, that's another 1,000 signatures. If we have 6 people that want to run House races in Minnesota, that's 500 signatures each, and only 2 weeks to get all this done. However, the law, in addition to that, says that for us to be able to maintain our minor party status, that the only races that count towards that are the statewide races. The races, that we're less likely to do well in, because who wants to vote? People are going to be less likely to vote third party for a governor race or a presidential race. But those are the only races that keep us as being maintained a political party in the state of Minnesota. It's not the House races for 500 signatures. It's not the CD1 race for 1,000 signatures. It's not CD8. None of those count. It's only the statewide races.
And so fundraise for petitioning efforts nationally, that's not a problem. But the signatures have to be Minnesota residents. And in those smaller jurisdictions, they have to be Minnesota residents within that congressional district or within that state house district.
So we're working on strategizing to get all this done right now. We have, at the very least, 3 statewide races that we're currently managing. We have the potential for 2 to 3 congressional district races. And we have maybe 2 House races right now. For us, so what we need to do is ensure that we get all of these done successfully, but we only have 2 weeks to do it. So now, we're going to be actively recruiting people to help with petitioning. If you want to help, info@lpmn.org.
Yeah, that
the 2-week window is the end of May at the very beginning of June.
Yes.
Right over Memorial Day weekend.
Perfect. Yeah, volunteer. Like, go to the volunteer sign up page and say, hey, I'm willing to collect 100 signatures over the time period. I mean, that is absolutely what needs to happen right now. I do have I've got a pledge page on my website, kuklensformn.com. You can scroll down and look at there's a pledge for a nominating petition.
Oh, do we have a lower third for your website, Charlie, that we could throw up? Because it's FOR, not the number.
Yeah, it's FOR. kuklensformn.com. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. Fill out the endorsement or pledge for endorsement. And, that gives at least me your contact information. Essentially, what we'd like to do is schedule, at least my opinion. I don't know how other people feel about this, but what I would like to do is schedule signature posts around the state, right? Where we can have a volunteer that's collecting signatures and drive traffic to them. It would be great to have one person or a couple people per county. Some of these bigger counties, like wider counties, it's tough to get around. But if we could have a central location per county, and then maybe a couple people in the Ramseys, the Hennepin, Washington counties, then it would be awesome to have sent people centralized to collect signatures at just a single spot, and then drive traffic to them and say, hey, send an email out or a text message. This is where your petition signature spot is. Go there, sign your petition, go on about your day. It takes 2 minutes.
Here's the thing is that also, and this is, a positive and all that, is that one person can sign every single statewide rate.
Absolutely.
So you don't need 2,000 signatures here, 2,000 different signatures here, just 2,000 signatures. And so if you find somebody, it's like, oh, I'll sign all of it. It's a little bit of time on their part.
But they count as one toward each one they sign.
Yeah. But this is the thing.
Oh no.
Yes, this is the thing.
Oh man. Charlie, come back again. Oh wait. He's here. Just say goodbye.
Keep getting bumped off. This is what I'm going to say. If you guys out there that have been part of politics and just don't like who your two parties are putting forward, or we had caucuses last night. You're like, I don't like any of these people. Look, you have an avenue to reject the current system, and it comes through this nomination process. And this is how it should work, right? You should be out there. I'm not opposed to gathering signatures. What I'm opposed to is the state coming down and continuing to move the goalposts, right? And so you're right. It is upon us to go out and drive traffic and get people to hear our message. But this is just to get on the ballot. This is just to get on the ballot as a minor party, right? So if you've been part of the process, went to caucus and the straw poll was a piece of shit, and I don't like any of the candidates that are being put forward from the GOP or the DFL. The only avenue you have is to sign these nominating petitions. That's the reality.
You know what? Do you know what we learned this week? So
what's that?
We've been doing a deeper dive into ballot access. And the deep dive has been going on for a while, but we learned that there is a Democrat in CD1 who is petitioning to get on the ballot. Yeah. And
he's not, well, hold on.
Here, wait a second. Let me tell his full story. Okay. So he's petitioning to get on the ballot, which is outside of the 2-week window for us. And he's petitioning so that he doesn't have to pay the filing fee, which is like $400, right?
That's not to get on the ballot. That's just not pay the filing fee.
Just to not pay the filing fee.
Right.
But clearly outside of the 2-week window.
Correct.
The law says in Minnesota that major parties can petition however long they want to not have to pay the filing fee. Correct. Libertarians, though, however, we only get 2 weeks.
No, not true. We could have a filing. There's 2 different petitions, right? We typically do the combined nominating and filing fee petition, right? We always have to do the nominating petition, right? But we could be doing the filing fee petition early.
But then we'd have to do petitioning twice.
Correct. Yep.
Laws for thee, but not me. That's what it comes down to. So, and just to wrap all this up, if you're interested, and I see that somebody wants to know if we have a CRM. Yes, we do.
Yes.
And if you go to our website, lpmn.org, you can give us your information. We will never leak it to the government, first of all. Second of all, you can also join the party. It is a measly $5 a month to join the party and to be part of us.
I'm sorry. I hate to point this out, but as the party's treasurer, I must. You said we'll never leak it to the government. Unfortunately, state and federal campaign finance laws require that I dox you if you give the party more than a certain dollar threshold. It's awful.
That's fair. Campaign finance and
Yeah. If you
The
give
rules
the
suck.
party more than $200 in any 1 year, your name and address and employer become public.
Well,
If you
you might
give
as well
more
lean
than
into it and just be on all the
$20, your name and
lists.
address are
but if
available.
you've ever given to a candidate as
Become
well,
public.
if you've ever donated to a candidate, your name goes
They
in.
have exactly the same rules. So if you've ever crossed that threshold before, your info is already public.
Okay, so $5 a month, LPMN membership. That's the minimum. And if you want to be part of the party, and be able to do things, plus our state convention is coming up soon in March 28th and 29th in Owatonna. So if you want to come and meet like-minded people and not be just the weird one in the room and have a whole room of weirdos all at the same time, it's a good
Trust
time.
me, there's some weirdos.
Yeah, but it's like a family. I feel like that the Minnesota party's convention is more like a family reunion. That's how
it is.
Yeah,
it's
and
a
most
good
people
time.
so unusual aren't like weirdos. We're just oddballs.
Absolutely.
Yep. So lpmn.org, sign up. There's a seasoning date if you want to attend the convention and be a voting member. I believe that's February 11th.
That is the last day to become a member. If you
become
want
a member before that, if you would like to come to the state convention.
I would actually say I am not opposed to the idea of somebody buying a convention ticket and coming to the convention and not being a voting member. Come learn our process, learn our culture, understand us. You don't have to vote at our convention to show up. That's not a requirement.
No, yeah, you can absolutely, but we're still in that window. And so if you would like to take the jump now, get a ticket for a convention, same place, website, buy a membership, but do it now, and then come and meet us in person. And it'll be a good time. We like each other. lpmn.org. And if you have any questions, info@lpmn.org. And we will see you next week. Hopefully we still have, the government
more news. There will be more news next week.
There will be more news. Like it or not, there will be more news.
Yep. All right.